2020. That is the target year for Belize and other countries in this region to eradicate all cases of malaria. Eradication of any disease is no easy task, but it is possible. And in the case of malaria, Belize is very close.
Belize peaked its cases in, I believe it was 1995, where we were at 2,000, over 10,000 cases. And last year we were down to 5 cases. And as of 2017, we are now down, we're at seven cases. So that's basically the situation in country.
According to Kim Bautista, the Vector Control Chief of Operations for the Ministry of Health, our current status places the country in a favorable position to meeting our target of 0. While the rest of the world aims to eliminate malaria by 2030 as a part of the Sustainable Development Goals, back in 2013, Belize, along with the rest of Central America, felt this region had a favorable environment for the elimination of the disease, and so collectively embarked on EMI, the elimination of malaria in Mesoamerica and the island of Hispaniola, aiming to do so by 2020.
It's not as difficult as it seems. If you go back to the early 2000s, you had about half the communities in this country having active transmission of malaria. Last year, we only had cases being reported from the Trio village, which is in Toledo, but right on the border between Toledo and Stan Creek. So that has been one of the most long-standing hotspots in this country for many reasons. We saw the resurgence of malaria around 2014 in the north, right along the border with Mexico. And they are still having transmission on their side of the Rio Hondo. And we had an outbreak in a couple villages, including Pachacan, up in the north. And so we managed to bring that under control. There is no more malaria being reported for, this year will be 2 consecutive years. But we are down to a handful of communities for 2017.
Belize has received support from Global Fund, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, PAHO, and others to focus on moving past the finish line with EMI. At the end of November, the ministry representatives held a health fair in Trio Village, educating villagers about malaria, its signs and symptoms, and prevention. Currently, the village reports 100% bed net usage, spraying twice a year, and continued community education, which includes educating the wider public on signs and symptoms of malaria and reminding physicians to test patients.
Malaria is transmitted by the bite of a female Anopheles mosquito. We have several of those Anopheles vectors in Belize. It's a parasitic disease. You go through that incubation period and then you get the telltale symptoms, which tend to be fever, chills, you get headaches. Some persons will tell you that they get quite a bit of vomiting as well. And also the way it works is that as the parasitemia level goes up in the blood, that's when you get that sudden onset of chills. That tends to happen, and that happens when you get that eruption of parasites within the bloodstream. Even as time has elapsed, the testing for malaria has remained the same, the gold standard. Very basic. So I take a blood smear, a couple blood drops on a slide, I smear it, and that is stained and read under a microscope, directly observing for various stages of the parasite. We have a small group of 7 microscopists in country who read on an annual basis about 25,000 slides.
If you have been diagnosed with malaria, it is important to complete your full treatment if you want to rid yourself entirely of the parasite. Bautista reminds that although we have seen close to 99% reduction in cases, it will take continued vigilance for us to completely eradicate it.
It shouldn't be a forgotten disease. I think we're still pushing that message in terms of even within our facilities. It's a very cheap test, and it's a test that should be done to rule out, especially when you have fever or a combination of fever and chills.